What's going on with your gang today? We got the final affliction. This man was eaten alive by a pack of pit bulls during a late night walk. That's pit bulls eaten alive? Oh man. We gotta get right up into this.
In today's episode, a pack of man-eating pit bulls terrorize a neighborhood in the middle of the night, savagely attacking a 92-year-old man, taking out his trash, and later eating another man alive. Hit that like button and subscribe right now. This is the terrifying pit bull attack on Dennis Moore. Welcome to Final Affliction.
Brother? Nah.
Pit bulls, like most dogs, are a marvel of nature. Their muscular and powerful build exudes raw strength and vitality as their sleek coat shimmers in the light like a suit of armor. Their massive jaws and fearless, piercing gaze strike fear into the hearts of even the bravest souls. Their growl and snarls emanate a sense of danger and is both thrilling and terrifying. However, if not properly trained and the owner neglects them, these dogs can turn out to be a nightmare, as was the case in the Penrose neighborhood. 62-year-old Dennis Moore had met the love of his life, Melvina, in his later years. His greatest joy had always been to see her happy. When they first met, they knew that they were meant for each other, and days later, Dennis was already making plans to be with her and her kids. When Melvina confided in him that she had never had a wedding, Dennis made sure that she got the wedding of her dreams. Over their 8 years of marriage, their happy family had settled in and made their home in the Penrose neighborhood of St. Louis, Missouri. Here, they were part of a vibrant community with a diverse population and a dynamic cultural scene. It was also home to upcoming and thriving artists of all kinds. But what made it so special was the sense of community. It always had a tight-knit feel, as its residents were always ready to lend a helping hand to each other. Dennis and Melvina Moore had weathered the storms of life together here, and always felt right at home. Dennis, a retired landscaper, was a gem to his community. Despite being retired, he still made time to manicure the lawns and gardens of his neighbors at no cost. He consistently went out of his way to help out the elderly in the community and always gave a warm smile to everyone he met on his way. He was like a shining star in the dark night sky, bringing warmth and light to all around him. His wife worked as a night shift nurse in a nursing home, and whenever she was away, Dennis would call to check on her frequently in the night. He loved her to the ends of the world and cared for her well-being. He wouldn't fall asleep until he had checked on his wife and made sure she was okay. Only then would he be able to tuck himself into bed and sleep peacefully. But before she left for work, just as the sun was beginning to set and as the evening slowly crept in, their home would be filled with the tranquil ambiance of the two lovingly chatting away. The air would be filled with the aroma of their tasty dinners simmering on the stove. Dennis always ensured that his wife left for work on a full stomach. The two had always found pleasure in each other's company, and every single day he would see her off and then proceed to take his evening walk. He would then settle into his cozy abode, indulging in his favorite pastime of watching TV until it was time for him to go to bed. On July 2022, as was with any other day, Dennis Moore gave his wife a kiss and hugged her tightly before she left for work. As nightfall set in, Dennis zipped up his jacket, put on a cap, and laced up his walking shoes ready for his daily walk. He locked the door behind him and hit the streets of his neighborhood. During this hour, the streets were quieter. There were fewer people and vehicles, which allowed him to immerse himself in the moment. It gave him the perfect chance to unwind and connect with nature. The rustling leaves and the gentle breeze created a calming soundtrack for his stroll, and as he walked down the alleys, the world seemed to slow down as he reflected on his day. An hour into his walk, Dennis was feeling rejuvenated and refreshed, and was on his way back home. His wife had texted him to let him know that she had arrived safely at work. His phone battery was dying, and he decided he was going to respond to her once he had gotten home and charged his phone. After all, he was just 2 blocks away, and he could see the lights of their home still on, just as he had left them. At the nursing home, Malvina was yet to hear from her husband, but at first she didn't think much of it. She put her phone away and got back to her work. As was his norm, Dennis would call his wife at 10:30 p.m. to let her know that he was retiring to bed. Later, at 3 a.m., he would use the washroom and then check in on his wife. And at 5 a.m., she would be the first person he would call as soon as he woke up. On that cold, dark Saturday night, however, his nightly routine would suddenly come to an end. At 10:30 p.m., Malvina waited for him to call, but he didn't.
This is so, like, it's messed up because there's a lot of similar stories out there like that with different people, like from different races and stuff, and they gotta go through the same way, like kidnap stories and stuff, you feel me? So like that's just it hurts to try and call a family member or a loved one, or however you want to put it, or even text them, and you don't get nothing back, and you get some devastating news. That shit don't ever be feeling right.
30 minutes went by, but still, he hadn't called. Worried, Malvina dialed him, but to her disappointment, her calls went unanswered. At 3 a.m., she didn't wait to see if he would call. Instead, she tried calling him again, but he didn't pick up. She knew something was terribly wrong when at 5 a.m., after trying again, her calls still didn't go through. Her shift was almost over, so she patiently waited to clock out so that she could get to the bottom of it and see what was wrong. At 9 a.m. on Sunday morning, as she was leaving the gates of the nursing home, she called her husband one more time. This time around, her call was answered. However, on the other end of the line was a voice she was unfamiliar with. The man identified himself as a St. Louis police officer, and that in itself was enough to confirm that something wasn't right. The officer asked her to identify herself and asked whether she lived at Dennis Moore's address. When she answered in the affirmative, the officers declined to explain the details of the situation at hand over the phone. A neighbor going about his daily business had passed through the alley that Dennis had taken the previous night when he was met with a gory sight and immediately called the police. The police arrived promptly to find Dennis Moore's decaying body. From their investigation, he had been attacked by a pack of dogs, and they had eaten him alive to the point where his body was quickly decaying. His wife arrived home to find her husband's body lying lifeless in a body bag. The police officers only allowed her to see his head, which had remained unharmed during the attack. The sight of the rest of his body would be too traumatizing for her to see. Malvina felt a heavy weight on her chest, making it harder for her to breathe. She couldn't wrap her head around the circumstances leading to his death. Tears fell down her cheeks uncontrollably as her husband's body was taken for autopsy to determine the cause of death. As the police canvassed the area, they met a 92-year-old man who was taking the trash out the previous night when he too was attacked by a pack of dogs, but was lucky enough to be taken to the hospital in time to save his life. With the help of animal control, the police found the
With Motorcycle Mechanics
That's
Institute right
wild.
in your backyard, now's the time to start training.
I would say
So you was attacked by dogs and the police didn't do nothing about it? The hospital didn't call the police about it or nothing, and they didn't do nothing like what? But when it take another black man to get injured and hurt and die, that's when y'all wanna, okay, let's go out here and find these dogs. The fuck out of here, dog. What the hell?
with animal control, the police found the 3 dogs that matched the description and were taken into custody pending investigations. Days before the attack, the pack of pit bulls had been spotted roaming freely without leashes and causing havoc in the neighborhood. They were aggressive towards people and their pets. It was as if the pack of pit bulls were wild dogs, behaving extremely territorially and aggressive. They would bounce through the grass, leaping over fences and fallen logs, and had a mean look on them that sent shivers down the spines of those who saw them. Malvina suspected that the dogs had been fed on raw meat and blood, which led them into mauling her husband like wolves. For months leading up to the death of Dennis, residents had contacted animal control to take hold of the situation, but they were yet to take action. Dennis's neighbors were angry that it had taken the death of someone for animal control to finally take action. A man by the name of Michael Lewis, who witnessed the 3 dogs eating Dennis's lifeless body, claimed to have seen a group of 6 pit bulls frequently patrolling the alley where Dennis was attacked. Police believe the dogs belong to someone in the area, but are unable to find out who that person is. If Michael Lewis is correct, there are still 3 more pit bulls on the loose in the area that animal control had failed to catch, making many residents scared to walk in their own neighborhood. What happened to Dennis is surprisingly common, as pit bulls are known to be particularly violent. Pit bulls are often associated with aggressive behavior and are sometimes referred to as dangerous dogs. This reputation has led to breed-specific legislation in many parts of the world that restricts or even bans ownership of pit bulls. However, it's important to note that not all pit bulls are aggressive, and aggression is not unique to this breed. Like all dogs, pit bulls can display aggressive behavior if they are poorly trained, mistreated, or socialized improperly. Factors such as genetics, early life experiences, and environment can also play a role in a dog's behavior. Many pit bulls are friendly and affectionate pets, and there are numerous examples of pit bulls serving as therapy dogs, search and rescue dogs, and even police dogs. If a pit bull displays aggressive behavior, it is often the result of poor ownership rather than an inherent characteristic of the breed. Pit bulls, like all dogs, require proper training, socialization, and care to ensure they grow up to be well-behaved and non-aggressive. An owner who fails to provide adequate socialization, training, and care for their pit bull can contribute to the development of aggressive behavior. A dog that is mistreated, neglected, or abused may become aggressive in response to its circumstances. It's also important to note that some owners intentionally encourage aggressive behavior in their pit bulls, either through neglect or through training methods that involve physical abuse or promoting a tough image for their dog. This can include encouraging the dog to be territorial or protective, or even participating in illegal dog fighting. Despite finding 3 of the 6 pit bulls that killed Dennis, until they find the owner of these pit bulls, the neighborhood will never be free of vicious dogs, and anyone walking the streets could meet their unfortunate final affliction.
Hey gang, if you made it this far, like, comment, share, and hit that sub button for you, boy. We're gonna need that this way. These final affliction was be going crazy.